Ever get that feeling? You know, like
Yeah.
you're reading the news and you just think, how could someone be that clueless?
Mm-hmm.
Turns out there might be like a whole system behind those head-scratching moments.
Mm.
We're diving into the often overlooked and, let's be honest, slightly uncomfortable world of human stupidity.
Yeah, it's fascinating, really. We're not just talking about like a lack of knowledge here. This isn't your everyday didn't study for the test kind of situation.
Right.
We're tackling a specific pattern of behavior with real-world consequences. A scholar named Carlo Cipolla even developed a whole theory about it.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
And get this, Carlo Cipolla,
Yeah.
respected economic historian. This is the kind of guy you'd expect to be elbow deep in financial trends, not writing the definitive guide to human blundering. He even taught at UC Berkeley. But in a surprising twist, he penned this super thought-provoking essay called The Basic Laws of Human Stupidity.
And that's where things get interesting. Cipolla wasn't interested in just calling people names. He wanted to understand this force he saw shaping history, this element of human behavior that impacts us all in ways we probably don't even realize.
Okay, so full disclosure here. We are not in the business of intelligence testing today. This isn't about labeling anyone. This deep dive is about exploring Cipolla's framework for understanding why those baffling what were they thinking decisions happen.
Exactly. Think of it as like recognizing patterns. And maybe, just maybe, becoming a little more aware of our own blind spots along the way. After all, none of us are immune.
Blind spots are a great way to put it, because Cipolla's very first law of human stupidity throws down the gauntlet. We always underestimate how much stupidity is actually out there. Think about it. Have you ever been totally blindsided by someone's ridiculous choice?
It's like that friend who falls for every phishing scam, or those viral videos of people trying to, I don't know, microwave a fork or something.
Yeah.
We see this stuff, we shake our heads. But Cipolla would say, hold on a second, don't be so quick to dismiss these as isolated incidents.
So it's not about feeling superior. It's about understanding that, statistically speaking, encountering stupidity is probably more likely than we'd like to admit.
Right. And that leads us to his second law, which might be the toughest pill to swallow. Stupidity is totally independent of any other trait.
Wait, hold up. Are you saying someone can be crazy successful, degrees on the wall, corner office, the whole 9 yards, and still be prone to, shall we say, less than stellar decision-making?
You've got it. Cipolla argues that intelligence, education, success, none of it makes you immune to pulling a major blunder.
Okay, now you're messing with me. Give me an example. I need a visual on this one.
Okay. Think about those people who end up in destructive cults.
Okay, yeah.
Often, they are highly educated, articulate, even successful in their fields, yet they fall prey to manipulation and groupthink. Or that business tycoon who loses it all on a sure-thing investment because they overestimated their own abilities.
Okay, yeah, those blind spots are getting clearer now. We love to categorize people based on what we think we know about them.
Yeah.
But Cipolla is saying stupidity doesn't discriminate. It's an equal opportunity offender.
Precisely. And that makes recognizing the signs even more important.
So we've established that stupidity doesn't really play by the usual rules.
Right.
It's harder to spot than we think.
Yeah. And it's not just a personal problem either.
Okay.
And that's where Cipolla's third law really hits home. It's not just about individual blunders, it's about the ripple effects. He argues that stupid actions often hurt others more than the person making the mistake.
Oof. So now we're talking unintended consequences.
Right.
But on a much bigger scale than, say, forgetting to pick up the dry cleaning.
Exactly. Think about it this way. Let's say you have someone spreading misinformation about a public health crisis. They might not even realize they're wrong. Maybe they genuinely think they're helping.
But those actions can have real-world consequences for people who buy into that misinformation. It's giving me what could possibly go wrong vibes, but with much higher stakes.
Precisely. And that brings us to Cipolla's fourth law, which in today's world might be the most relevant of all. Non-stupid people constantly underestimate the power of stupidity.
Oh, this one I get. It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck in the news. You've got some political scandal unfolding, some financial crisis brewing, and you think, surely someone's going to step in and stop this madness.
We have this innate belief that rationality will prevail, that common sense will eventually win out.
Right.
But Cipolla's argument is that we fail to grasp just how potent a force stupidity can be. We write it off as an anomaly, a minor inconvenience.
When in reality, it can be the driving force behind some of the biggest messes in history.
It's true. We dismiss it at our own peril.
Okay, give me a historical example here. I need that concrete evidence that this isn't all just theoretical doom and gloom.
Okay. Think about the rise of totalitarian regimes in the 20th century.
Okay.
It's chilling, really. How did these movements gain so much power? Part of it was that people underestimated the appeal of their propaganda, how it preyed on people's fears and prejudices. By the time they realized how dangerous it was almost too late.
It's like that saying, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Except in this case, it's more like those who underestimate the power of stupidity are doomed to be blindsided by it.
Exactly. And that leads us to Cipolla's fifth and perhaps most provocative law: stupid people are more dangerous than bandits.
Okay, now we're getting to the heart of it. On the surface, you'd think a bandit, someone actively out to cause harm, would be the bigger threat. So what's the logic here? Why are stupid people more dangerous?
Well, Cipolla argues that a bandit is predictable. They're motivated by self-interest, right? You can, at the very least, understand their motives. You might even be able to negotiate with a bandit. Stupid people, on the other hand, are wild cards. Their actions are often illogical, self-defeating, completely unbound by any sense of self-preservation even.
So it's not just that they cause damage, it's the way they cause damage.
Yes,
It's unpredictable, impossible to anticipate, and there's no real logic behind it.
exactly. And that is a recipe for chaos, especially when those agents of chaos end up in positions of power. But here's where Cipolla gets really interesting. He doesn't just drop these laws on us and walk away. He gives us a way to visualize the impact of our actions.
Yes, the famous Cipolla graph. Now, I know some of our listeners might not be visual learners, so walk us through this. No graphs required, I promise.
Okay, so imagine a graph with two axes.
Okay.
One represents the benefit or loss an action brings to the person taking it. The other axis, you guessed it, represents the benefit or loss that same action brings to everyone else.
So we're basically plotting out the consequences of someone's choices for themselves and the world around them. Kind of like a karma map, but with more data points.
Exactly. And this creates four distinct quadrants, four types of people based on where their actions land on this graph.
Hit me with these quadrants. I'm ready to figure out where I land.
First up, we've got the intelligent ones. Actions benefit everyone, themselves, and others.
Okay.
Think about your classic entrepreneur who starts a successful business that provides jobs, contributes to the economy, everyone wins.
Win-win. I love those.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next on our quadrant adventure?
Next, we have the bandits. We've talked about them all about self-interest, even if it means throwing others under the bus. Your corrupt CEO raking in the big bucks while driving their company into the ground. Classic bandit move.
Okay, so those are our two extremes.
Mm-hmm.
What about the other two quadrants? Where do things get really interesting?
Well, the third quadrant is where we find the helpless ones. These folks, they mean well, genuinely want to help, but their actions tend to backfire. They end up hurting themselves even more than anyone else.
Ouch. It's like that friend who always lends money to that one person they know never pays it back. Good intentions, but
Precisely. And then, of course, we have our fourth quadrant, the home of the stupid. Their actions result in a net loss for everyone involved, including themselves.
So bringing it back to our earlier examples, the reckless driver causing an accident, the person spreading harmful misinformation, they'd be hanging out in that stupid quadrant, right?
Yeah.
Their actions have a negative impact all around.
You got it. And the thing is, because of Cipolla's first two laws, we never really know how many people might fall into that quadrant or when those actions might pop up.
Okay, so this has been a wild ride. We've gone from economic history to dissecting stupidity all in a day's work, right? But here's the thing that's really got me thinking. This isn't just some abstract theory. Cipolla's work has major real-world implications.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to wrap our heads around this. This isn't about labeling people. It's about recognizing a force that shapes everything from our personal relationships to the global stage.
So what do we do with this knowledge? We've identified the problem, we've mapped it out on a handy-dandy graph, but how do we actually combat something as well pervasive as human stupidity? We'll dive into that right after this. So we're standing at the foot of Mount Stupidity, armed with Cipolla's insights. But here's the million-dollar question. How do we actually climb this thing?
No, if we're taking Cipolla's work at face value,
Okay.
we might not like the answer.
Uh-oh.
Remember, he believes stupidity is a fixed trait.
Oh, boy.
In his view, you've got a certain amount of it, and that's that.
Okay, so maybe we can't eradicate stupidity. Completely bummer, I know.
Yeah.
But surely there's something we can do to, I don't know, minimize the damage.
Absolutely. We might not be able to cure stupidity, but we can definitely become more resilient to its impact. And it all starts with awareness. That's always step one.
All right, lay it on me. What does awareness in a pity-filled world even look like?
First and foremost, we've got to get real about our own biases.
Okay.
We all have them. We might assume someone is intelligent based on their job title, their education, how well they speak, and totally miss the warning signs when they start making irrational decisions.
So basically, don't judge a book by its cover. Someone might look the part, sound the part, but that doesn't make them immune to a good old-fashioned lapse in judgment.
Exactly. And here's the second thing. We've got to take stupidity seriously. We can't just laugh it off or dismiss it as harmless. Remember Cipolla's fourth law. We constantly underestimate its power.
So no more chuckling at those what could go wrong moments,
Yeah.
because sometimes a lot can go wrong.
Exactly. A little humor is fine, but we also need to be asking ourselves, okay, this seems ridiculous on the surface, but what are the potential consequences here? What could happen if this escalates? What if no one steps in to stop it?
Because sometimes those seemingly small, stupid actions can snowball into something much, much bigger, especially if enough people underestimate them.
You're getting it. And finally, here's where we can be proactive. We need to support systems and structures that encourage intelligent thought and critical thinking. A well-informed, engaged public is the best defense against the spread of misinformation and bad decisions.
So we're talking about education, access to reliable information, encouraging healthy skepticism.
Yeah.
Maybe bringing back a little bit of common sense into the equation.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been an eye-opening deep dive into a topic we don't often discuss so frankly. But before we go, one final thought. Something for everyone to chew on. Cipolla believed that stupidity was fixed, that we're stuck with a certain amount of it. But is that really true? Is there a way to actually reduce stupidity in the world? Can we become more resistant to its influence? Or are we, as Cipolla argued, doomed to forever underestimate its power?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating and maybe a little bit terrifying at the same time.
Big questions to ponder. We'll leave you to explore the complexities of human behavior and the enduring power of stupidity. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and whatever you do, try not to make any decisions that would land you in that dreaded fourth quadrant.